maybe I should start with type actually, since that is an essential part of this assignment, is incorporating text. So I'm going to turn off this photo. So I'm going to think about where I would put some text, and then I'll go back and work more with the image. So I made a separate layer that I named text. That's probably, I recommend putting text on its own layer. And I have this quote here that it's one of her quotes that I got. And now I'm going to think about the placement. So we talked a little bit before about placing the text where the image is directing the viewer to look. So she's looking up and kind of to the right. So this would be an ideal spot for text. I want to talk about how you might use the type tools. So when you're on the advanced toolbar, you'll have all the type options. If you're in basic toolbar, so if I go back to basic, you only have the essential 3 tools: the horizontal type tool, the type on a path, and the vertical type tool. But I like to have all the tools at my fingertips, so I'm going to go back, Window, Toolbars, and choose Advanced. And then when you click and hold on the type tool, you will have a bunch of tools. It might look a little overwhelming, but let's break it down what we've got here. We've got the horizontal type tool that you can use to type out horizontal text by clicking, or you can click and drag to type area type. But there's also an area type tool that allows you to type inside of a shape horizontally, and then type on a path, which lets you type on a curved path. Also horizontally. So these are the top 3 are all horizontal type tools. And then you have the same tools, but all vertical. So then you have a vertical type tool, and a vertical area type tool, and a vertical type on a path tool. So the same 3 again. And then finally you have a really cool tool that I want to introduce to you first, which is really, I love it. It's very tactile, very hands-on, very intuitive. It's called the touch type tool that lets you change the spacing between characters, lets you rotate, lets you change the size of characters by just clicking on individual characters after you've used the type tool. So I'll start with the type tool, regular horizontal type tool. You can get to this tool by just pressing T. And let me lock down my layers, my other layers, so that I'm just going to click and drag through the lock boxes here so that I don't accidentally click on artwork and add type to it, which is very possible if you don't have other layers locked down. So that's why it's good to have your text on a separate layer. And then to type, you can just click to drop in text. It'll give you placeholder text that's highlighted, and then you can type to overwrite that. Or I have a quote already, so I can go over here and let's say you could select a quote or something from the internet, copy it. I'm gonna hit Command C, and then let me just delete this. And then you can take your type tool and you can click to drop in type. It will give you the lorem ipsum Latin placeholder text that's traditionally used by graphic designers when they don't have the copy, the written type yet, but they want to start planning out the layout. So there's this Latin type that's always been used as placeholder, which Illustrator will generate now. Then I can hit Command V to paste, and it'll paste my type that way. This type that I just copied and pasted, this is done by just a click. So this is point type. Point type you create by just taking your type tool and just clicking. And with point type, I can actually scale my letters, my characters by, ooh, that's weird. I can actually scale everything. by dragging on the bounding box like that. That's point type. And notice that the characters, or the text box has a little circle button attached to it, and I can change this from point type to area type by double clicking on this circle. So if I, let's see, if I double click on the circle, now it's area type. So area type is type that's within a frame that as I change the frame, it will wrap to the frame. I could do this, also I could do this by, instead I can make area type from the beginning by taking the same tool and clicking and dragging a text box. And it will fill with the placeholder text, and then I can hit Command V to paste what I have copied on the clipboard. I noticed that one of my words here is, or two of these words up here are up above the what we call the baseline. So let me just fix my characters for a moment. So to fix to fix up your type, to make adjustments, then you would use the character panel, which automatically appears in properties, a minimized view of the character panel and the paragraph panel. Oh, there's even some area type options here for how the type is aligned within the text box. So I could center it, or have it be starting at the top, or have it be at the bottom. I think that's a new feature in Illustrator. And then you can change the paragraph alignment. I can center align everything, or keep it left aligned so everything's straight edge on the left or right. Or I could justify so that the alignment is straight on both sides, but then there's a lot of spacing in between. So you might try some of the other justify options that don't stretch out the lines at the bottom, so the last line is not justified on these three options here. But I'll go back to left align, and I want to go to my character panel. Not all the options are showing. From properties, you can click on the little dot to see the entire character panel, or you can bring up any of the type panels by going to window and choosing type, hovering over type, and then you can choose any of the type panels from the list here, or Command T will bring up the character panel. And this is still the minimized view of the character panel, so if I want the full view, I could click show options, and now I have all my options here. And I see that I've got something weird going on here with this text, because I did already play with this text in a previous document, so I'm gonna fix that. It's the baseline, I think, that's changed here. Let's see, the baseline to be, no, maybe that's not it. Oh, maybe it got turned into a, let's see. Yeah, the baseline is set to 5 points. Let's see, 0. There we go. So yeah, so the baseline shift will allow you to move your characters above or below the invisible line that the characters sit on, which is called the baseline. But now everything looks kind of normal and plain. Oops. Don't want to do that. I just accidentally held my space bar down. So it's good to see my hidden characters are shown by these little spaces, and I can go to type and toggle hidden characters off and on by using this keyboard shortcut or clicking show hidden characters. What can you guys see what that shortcut is? What is it? You guys still with me? I know it's late. You guys are the troopers, whoever's here still, if anyone's here. Let's see, 5 people, all right. Option Command I. On a Mac, on Windows, it would be Alt Control I. That'll toggle your hidden characters off and on. So Option Command I, on, off, so I can tell where I pressed return, where I made spaces. This is a soft return here to go to the next line without making a separate paragraph, so that's by pressing Shift return. So if I want to work with the characters, I could use the character panel, but it's a lot more fun to use the touch type tool. So I'm gonna show you that, and also maybe I want to choose a font, so I can have my type selected, and I can click the drop down here for font family, and I can find various fonts, sample various fonts here by hovering over the font. And find something that conveys the feeling. I guess I'll go with this Adobe Garamond Pro. And it has, I like fonts that have a lot of different styles to choose from. So I could go italic, bold, bold italic there for styles. And then I can use my touch type tool by clicking and holding on the type tool and go down to the touch type tool, and then I can, with the touch type tool, I can select an individual character and scale it bigger and do like a raised cap if I want, like the beginning of a storybook. And that's not actually changing the font size, it's changing the vertical scale and the horizontal scale. I could also make make a drop cap by dragging the letter down below the baseline if I wanted to. I can select other characters and change the spacing between characters this way. You can do fun stuff like making the letters, moving the letters up and down on the baseline for like a whimsical feel, or not. If you don't like that, you can select the letter and go to the baseline, shift, and go back to 0, so the letters are back in place on their normal baseline. And then let's see, what else can I do? You can also rotate letters if you want. So So if you want more like of a whimsical feel, you can select letters and see there's a little knob at the very top that you can hover over. Whoops, it's not letting me get to it because, let's see, it's showing P there. It's weird. Let's see if okay, it's letting me get to this one. So there's a little circle at the top I can drag on, and I can rotate letters. I can move them around, rotate, and rotation you can also do from your character panel. So, but this is gives you a lot more control and ease of use, flexibility. So it's a lot more fun. So you can rotate characters like that. If you change your mind, you can always go back to rotation in the character panel options and set each one back to 0 again. 0. And make it go back 0.
Did you use the shift click option to select multiple?
Oh, good question. Yeah, let's try it. No, unfortunately. That would make it a lot easier, huh? Because then I could just shift click, but no, I'm holding shift and it's not with the touch type tool, it's not allowing that feature. Maybe that's a good thing to write, a good note to write to Adobe for their next update. Please make the touch type tool work with shift to select multiple. That's a good idea. I like that. Okay, we'll have to write a letter to Adobe on that one. Okay, so, but it is really cool. It gives you a lot of flexibility to work with. With something like this, though, I might, with this much text here, I might instead want to use my regular type tool and highlight certain words to make certain words stand out. So words that are really important in this quote that I want people to notice right away. So I might, well, let me select this word here. and make it bigger. People, it's an important word. You can also adjust the spacing overall on a selected word or a selected line, and you can select individual words by double clicking a word, or if you want to select the whole line, you can do one. That's selecting the whole paragraph. Thought there was a way to just select the line, but maybe the only way to select the line is to click and drag across. But I'm going to double click this word, and then I can adjust the tracking, the spacing between the letters, and let me just make sure the baseline is normal. Okay, and then if I notice that there's odd spacing between individual characters, I can click between individual characters with my type tool, and that would be a kerning issue. So then I can use the kerning control in the character panel, maybe add a little more spacing by adjusting the kerning there. Okay, people, and then maybe I want goals to be a bigger word, so maybe I want to match that size. That's 17, so this can be 17 as well. And achievement is a good word to highlight. Maybe that'll be bigger. No, achievement. Money, power, and then you could also change the color of certain words. Image. So certain words stand out over others. So maybe I want environment. It would be a very important word here. So that could be even bigger. But then these words here, maybe like some of these words I might choose a different color, like a shade, like a lighter color for certain words, or a shade of gray. Not that gray. Let's see. No, that's a little too gray because that blends in a little too much there with the background. Different shades of gray. And that's a little too light. An image. And more likely to use natural resources. Let's see, natural resources could be made bigger to emphasize. And then that'll make the quote easier to digest because you'll have, let's see, maybe this will be bright white and engage in. And then I can mess with the spacing between the baselines. That's the leading on this. So I can play with adjustments with the leading control here. See if I use the downward arrow, then that changes the spacing from baseline to baseline, and increase that. And then I might take a word and highlight it and make it like all caps. There's an all caps button down here in the character panel. And I could play with the baseline shift on that word. Environment. Maybe environment will look better, a lighter color. And then I can go to the bottom here, Naomi Klein, or it names her, and do like her in a different color here. And maybe make her choose italic or bold italic. Well, that's a little too light. And I can indent that So I can highlight this part. This is a separate paragraph because you see that I pressed return here because you see the paragraph symbol. So this can be controlled by paragraph panel options, which paragraph panel is tabbed behind the character panel, and I can add an indent. There's this indent, left indent. I can add an indent here, and I can also add, there's space that I added with space after paragraph. There's, oops, not space after paragraph. Let me make that 0. Space before paragraph I can increase there, and then it will add more space from this paragraph to the next paragraph. Okay, so that's some stuff I can do there. Okay, so that's if I wanted to have the text like this in a box, and I can adjust the box to fit. You want to give your text good padding so that it's not too close to your art, unless you have it. I could have it kind of on top of the art, but in general you want to have, if I don't have it on top of the art, I want to give it good spacing all around. Right now it's set to hyphenate. That's a paragraph option. So if I uncheck hyphenate, then nothing will hyphenate. And I can have it like that and have at least 1/8 of an inch margin from the edges of the artboard into the text. Okay, so that's if you're doing a big block of text like that. But there are lots of other options that you can play with your text. So let's look at another option. So I want to get to, okay, area type. So the next tool down is the area type tool, which this in itself, this is area type because you can make area type with the regular type tool by clicking and dragging a text box. But if you wanted to type in a shape, for example, like let's say I drew out a circle. I'm going to just draw out a circle. And then I want to type, let me just select this type here, and I'll just double click on it. When I double click on type from the selection, with the selection tool, it'll automatically put me into the type tool. Then I can hit Command A to select all the type, Command C to copy. Of course, that's Control A and Control C on Windows. And then I've got this text here. And now if I take my area type tool, I can hover over the path of this circle and click, and it's gonna fill with placeholder text. It's using whatever style I had selected last, but I'm gonna hit Command V, and now I have this quote that I copied pasted into this circle. Notice when you do that, when you paste into a shape like that, it will remove the fill color. So if I wanted a backdrop of color, I'd have to make another circle, and I could use my drawing mode, which is the draw behind mode. As long as I don't have anything else in my text layer but text, it'll work. So I could switch to draw behind mode, and then I can draw a circle and choose a color. Let's see, let's choose a color. Here, I'll choose a green color to be different here. And then I can hold down Shift and draw a circle out. So now I have a circle of color behind this text here. And the text is fitting into this circle. So that's if you wanted text inside of a shape. But let me show you something different. So now I have this other circle here. And if I wanted maybe a line of text to run along the outside of the circle, that's when I might use the Type on a Path tool. So I choose the Type on a Path tool. And this time I'm just gonna highlight maybe the first part of this. So to the extent people prioritize values and goals such as achievement, money, power, status, and image. I'm going to just get to that. I'm going to highlight that, Command C that, Then with my type on a path tool, I'm just gonna hover over the path and click. It's gonna drop in the placeholder text, and I can hit Command V to paste my own text, or I can type my own text on top of that. And then if I want to move that around, I can use my selection tool, and then I'll have access to this bracket here, this start bracket and this end bracket. And I'm just sliding the end bracket to the end of the text. If I go too far, it'll hide my text, and then I'll have overset text that's not fitting. So I'll extend that out to fit all, to reveal all the text. And I can drag my start bracket to move the text around the circle. And it doesn't have to be on a circle, it can be on a curve or anything else. But let me do another circle. So then I'll take my ellipse and hold down Shift and draw out another circle here. And then I'm gonna choose the next part of this quote. And I could still use the type on a path tool to highlight. So then I'll put, they tend to hold more negative attitudes towards the environment. I'm going to copy that, Command C, and then I'm going to go over here, use my type on a path tool, click, it's dropping in placeholder. I'm going to hit Command V, and now I have another line of text, and I go to my selection tool, and I can drag the end bracket around, I can drag the start bracket. And if I want this text to be on the inside of the circle, there's this other bracket here that you can use, that I call the flip bracket, that you can use just to move the text around as well by dragging it. When you hover over it, you'll see a little arrow that looks like a T shape. And if I drag it inwards, then I flip the text inwards, and then I can drag it on the inside of the circle. Whoops, like that. And or move the start bracket where I want it. So you can create some interesting kind of shapes. It might be a little hard to follow that. You could also just have the type be on a curve. So you could just take the pen tool, click and drag, create a curve, and then take your type on a path tool, and maybe I'll just copy something here in my text, Command C, and then I'll click and hit Command V, and so now I have her name there on this. And I'm just going to use my selection tool to drag the start bracket and then adjust the end bracket. And actually this path isn't long enough to fit all the text, so I can take my direct selection tool, select an endpoint, and drag it out longer until it reveals everything. Or I could keep it short, and I could click on the overset button with my selection tool, and it'll give me threaded text. Let's see, I gotta select first, then select the overset button there. Now I've got a loaded cursor, so the next place I click is gonna give me another text box that is threaded to the previous one. So any text that didn't fit on this, in this little text box, is now threaded out to this text box. And that's what happens when you click on the big boxes that are attached to the bracket, on the end bracket. If you click this box here, it's going to load your cursor, and then you click outside and it's going to make another text box. So you may not want that, so you can just delete that and delete, and then you're back to one box again, but it's not all fitting here, but that's okay. So just some different options for type, and then so those are all the horizontal tools, and then of course there's the vertical type tool that you can experiment with, and things are a little different when you're using vertical type. So if I take the vertical type and I click, then it's going to give me up and down type. I can hit Command V and paste my text like that. I could also, one technique that I like to use is I like to put like a whole tapestry of text in the background. So I might go to my background layer and I might make another 8x8 box. 8x8. Say okay. And then I'm gonna just select this quote here, double click, Command A to select all, Command C to select the quote here, and then I'll try using the vertical area type tool, and then I'm just gonna click on anywhere on the path, and it's filling this box with placeholder text, but then I'm gonna hit Command V to paste my quote there, and I'm just gonna keep hitting Command V. So it's another way that you can play with text. And oops, I'm on draw behind, so it's putting everything behind. So let me not do that. I'm gonna get it back to draw normal, and I'll bring this to the front, Command Shift right bracket. So this could kind of be a backdrop of words here that I can play with so that they interact with the colors in the background. So while this text is selected, I can go to my, let's see, my properties, and I can adjust the opacity down, or I can click on the word opacity to bring up the transform panel, and I can experiment with different blending modes, and then the colors in the text will interact in different ways with the background. So it's a nice way to play with. Let me turn off my hidden characters, Command Shift I. Let's see, so we see without. So it's an interesting way if you wanted to play with text, vertical type, and of course the other one that we didn't try yet is vertical type on a path. So vertical type on a path, it works the same way. So if you have a path that you draw out, then you take your vertical type, you click, and then you've got your vertical type on a path if you want to play with vertical type. And when you're working with vertical type, your character panel, your paragraph panel, everything, all the options will look a little bit flipped because everything's in a different direction, but you get used to it. Okay, so that's a little bit different ways of working with type. Did I show you guys the example that I have with someone who did some work with type, with the example with the visor? Maybe I'll show you that real quick. So that was, let's see, project 2, examples. Is it this one? No, it was this one here. So here's an example. Did I show you this already? Here's an example.
No.
No? So here's an example that a student did at OCC, where she created part of her image all in type, with type on a path in a clever way. What do you think that is? What part of the image do you think that the text is creating, is forming? Does that look like anything in particular? It's actually her visor that she recreated all as typography art. And you can go on Google and get inspired if you Google images and type in typography art, where the text is actually forming the image. And if you want to work in that way, that's a cool way to work. similar to, I showed you the example with the guy who did the circles, the image made out of circles and text. So that was kind of along those lines. You could work that way. So there's lots of cool typography out there, typography art. And there are tools in Illustrator where you can actually bend the text too, like that, which will, I'll be showing you when we get to the t-shirt design. We'll jump back into Illustrator and look at those tools. All right, so, and I could be done, but I wanted to show you really quickly how you might, if you had a situation where, let me just turn off the text layer here. If you have a situation where you have a lot of something, a lot of pebbles, or a lot of rock, a lot of grains of sand, and you just want to, you have a texture and you just want to spray on a ton of something. So I'm gonna turn on my background photo and try to do some little snow chip imagery here. So I might go over one of these, or I might just kind of draw them freeform down here. In fact, it looks like I already started drawing these down here. Let's see, let me unlock my layers. Let's see, what layer did I put this on? On vectors? Yeah, these are on vectors. So I started drawing these already, so I'm gonna spare you and not draw too many of these already, not draw anymore, except maybe I want to do like a little bit of snow, so I might use my blob brush, and let me choose, I can put this white color here. Whoops, let's see. I don't want to have that selected, so I want to just take my eyedropper and find this white color here, and I'll then I think with the blob brush I could have this on the fill to start with, and I take my blob brush and and then I'm gonna just try drawing with it. Let's see me start drawing, and maybe I'll draw a little clump of snow if I can. So just drawing kind of little clump of snow with my blob brush. And so I've got this little shape. Let me zoom in here, and maybe I want a little bit of a grayer color, so I could double click this, double tapped with my pen, maybe a lighter color first, like a whiter color, and then I'll just kind of do whiter color. But if I want to draw inside this shape, what I could do is I can use the direct selection tool, or not the direct, let me use the selection tool, select this shape, and I can draw inside of it. But I just wanted to go over the drawing modes. So drawing modes, whatever you're drawing with, whether it's a shape tool or a painting tool, the way drawing modes work, let me just Command Shift A to deselect. So let's say like a normal drawing mode, whatever layer I'm on, which I'm on the vectors layer. Let me just flip that open. When I draw a shape, I'll just draw a circle. I'll just get rid of this. When you're in normal draw mode, every shape that you draw, let me draw another shape here, is gonna go at the top of the stack of sublayers on that layer. And then if I switch to draw behind, whatever I draw next, let me just Command Shift A to deselect and choose another color like a blue. Then I draw out a shape. Now, whatever I draw next, because I'm on draw behind mode, it's drawing a shape at the bottom of this stack. So it put the shape all the way at the bottom of the stack of the layer that I'm highlighted on, which is my vectors layer. So then, I want to delete these now. Then there's the draw inside option, which only allows you to select it when you've selected an object. So I'm going to select this object, and I want to be able to draw inside of just this shape so I don't go outside the line. So I click on draw inside, and now this shape is set as a draw inside shape, so I can change the color that I'm drawing with to maybe, I'll just choose a white color there, and then I'll take my blob brush and draw along the edge here. And see, it's not going outside of the line. Let me undo that and adjust my blob brush to a much smaller size. 4 with 4 variation, I'll say okay. You can also use your bracket keys to change the size of a brush. The bracket key is next to the P key. And then I can just kind of draw along the edge. Let me zoom way in so you can see that. So I'm drawing little like white highlights along the edges here, and I'm not going outside of the lines. Here now I'll just double tap that and choose like a grayer color there and kind of draw along the edge here. Oops. And so I'm able to kind of accent the shape without going outside the lines. But you know, if I'm a little messy here, I can still use my direct selection tool because this is all vectors, and I can use my smooth tool and smooth out my shape a little bit, or I could use eraser, and eraser can also be set to work with pen pressure, which it looks like I set it. Here, bring up the variation. Oh, it doesn't, that's funny. It's 3.5. And then I can use the eraser. I can also use the bracket keys to change the size of the eraser. And I can use my pen and erase where I want to. Erase this part here. And so I've got this little clump of snow here. Let me just smooth this out a little bit. My smooth tool. There, that looks better. Maybe this one. Smooth this out. I can select the points and alter the shape a little, make it more interesting. And okay, then once I'm done drawing inside the shape, I can switch back to regular draw, normal draw, and then now I've got this kind of group of shapes here. And okay, so then let's say I want to turn this artwork here into something that I can spray on a lot of. Maybe I'll just duplicate a few more of these little snow clumps out. So I'll just option drag out some more here. Oops. Maybe alter it a little bit so that the shaping in this is a little bit more interesting. Different colors. Okay, so if I want to turn this little group of shapes into something I can spray out a lot of or scatter a lot of, I could do that with a scatter brush. I could also do that with the symbol sprayer tool. So to do that with a scatter brush, I can use my brushes panel, and while I have the artwork selected, I could click the new brush button and choose scatter brush and say okay. And I can name this like snow chips. And then I'll just say okay. And so what that lets me do is then it lets me use the paintbrush tool to draw out, let me just deselect everything, to draw out a line, a whole bunch of the snow chips. And I can double click on the scatter brush and I can make changes to the size. I can increase the spacing or decrease the spacing so they're more clustered together. I can I don't really like scatter because it takes it off the path. So I leave scatter alone, 0. And rotation, I might want to rotate things. That rotation's a good one to set as random. You can set pressure on any of these two, but random, and then you can randomize the scatter a little bit with 2 sliders, and then you can say okay and apply or leave. Let's just apply. So then when I paint now, it'll paint a lot of something. So that's using the scatter brush. But then there is the symbol sprayer tool. So in order to use the symbol sprayer tool, you need to turn your artwork into a symbol using the symbols panel. So I'll go to Window and bring up my symbols. There are lots of ready-made symbols in here, but for this assignment, I'd like you to create, this is optional. If you use symbols, I'd like you to create your own custom symbol. So you do that the same as I did for creating a custom brush. Create artwork, select your artwork, and then from the symbols panel, I can click the new symbol button, name it, I'll call it Snow Chips, and you can just accept all the defaults as is and say okay. And then you've got your own custom symbol, and this has become a symbol instance. Symbols are great because they don't increase your file size too much, and they are great for your workflow so your system doesn't get bogged down, because all the data is stored in one original place and it links out to all the different instances. So I can drag out these various instances, and then, or I can take the symbol sprayer tool and spray on. With the symbol sprayer tool, it allows you to replicate a whole bunch at a time. I'm going to just make the area bigger with my bracket key. You can just click and drag and go shh. It doesn't actually make that sound, but it allows you to replicate a lot at a time. And then if you wanted to make a change to, you can change the original. You can't change the instances. You can break the link to the instances, and then they will no longer be connected to the symbol. If I break the link, then I will be able to edit the artwork again, and it has all the vectors, or all the anchor points, and all the data is here in the main workspace. But all the rest of these are symbol instances linking to the original. So if I wanted to make a change on the original, I can double click on the symbol, and then here it is in my symbol editing mode. And then let's say I decide I want to change this color blue, so I double click here and choose like a blue color, and then I go back out. Now every instance, the color of that little shape has been changed to blue. If I want to go back to the way it was, double click and then just select it and use the eyedropper and find another color that's similar, and then go back out, and now it's back the way it was every instance. So the way I would work here, because I don't want to make a big mess, is I would go to my background layer, and in my background layer, let's see, I'll turn off the photo. I might want to paint inside of a shape. So this body of water shape here, this background shape, I can select this, and then I can choose draw inside. And now this is a draw inside shape. So then I can either take my scatter brush and use my scatter brush and choose Snow Chips, and take my paintbrush and then kind of draw. Oops, Command C. What did I just do here? Oh, this is weird. Let me try my symbol sprayer tool instead and see if it works. If this doesn't work, I'll have to make a separate draw inside shape, because this might not work, because this shape I put some freeform gradient on, so yeah, so never mind, Command C. So I'm not gonna draw inside that. I'm gonna go back to normal on normal. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna need a separate, another 8x8, yet another. So I take my rectangle, click 8x8, and then I need to set this in the center of my artboard. So I'll just align to artboard, center align, center align. And this is just an empty frame. Well, it has a stroke on it, but I can take the stroke off. This is the shape I want to make into a draw inside shape so that I can paint, I can spray on a bunch of something, a bunch of these symbol instances, or paint scatter brush through it and not go outside of the lines. So it's an automatic clipping group. So I'm going to turn this into a draw inside by clicking draw inside now. So now it gets the dotted lines to indicate it's draw inside. And then I can take my scatter brush, choose snow chips, take my paintbrush, and draw like that. Ooh, look at that. So it just draws my little paint chips in there without going outside of the lines. And that. And then also if I double click on this and I set the size to pen pressure, of course, then I can go very small in places and bigger, and then say okay, and maybe I'll apply that, and then I can use my my tablet here and go very thin to heavy. But then I want to try my symbol sprayer. So I'm gonna go to my symbol sprayer tool. There it is, and also use that to draw inside. So I got from my symbols panel, I got my snow chip selected, and I'm just gonna go click and drag. So it's going in front of some of these land masses. If I want it to be under, I can move this 8x8 underneath some of these other layers. So I can go to layers, and it becomes a clip group. So the clip group, I need to select it and send it back. I can do command left bracket and have it just go underneath. Now it's going underneath these land areas. And then, so once I spray out a bunch, like a symbol group, then let's see, where's my clip group? It's this one right here. So I can open that up and I can target, select my symbol set, and then I can use the tools that go along with the symbol sprayer tool to make some alterations. So I could go to my tear off so I can see all my tools that go along with my symbol sprayer, and you'll see there's the shifter that you can use to click and drag and move the instances around to arrange them. There's the scruncher. You can click and hold to scrunch them up together. If you hold Option and click, then it will do the reverse. So now it'll spread everything out. Or just click and hold to scrunch things in. Then there's the sizer tool that you can click to make symbol instances in the group bigger, or hold Option to do the reverse. You can also double click on any of these tools and make changes to things numerically, like the intensity, density, and it gives you the keyboard shortcuts of how to use the tool. And then there's the symbol spinner that will let you rotate. So click and drag, you'll see arrows to rotate. And then symbol stainer tool lets you click to add some color. So if you put color on your fill, like if I want to stain with some blue tint, I can click and add blue on some of these. And then if I want to go take the color away, what key should I hold, do you think? Option to go reverse, to and it takes the color out, the tint out in steps. And then there's the symbol screener tool, which is nice because it'll make certain instances get, what's it doing? It's making things get transparent. And then if you hold Option, you can bring them back to full opacity in steps if you want. And then there is the symbol styler tool, and that tool that will work with your graphic styles. You guys know what the graphic styles are? If you go under Window, you can bring up your graphic styles panel, and you'll have some already in there in your graphic styles panel, but you can bring up additional graphic styles under with your library options and choose all kinds of graphic styles. I like the ones in the buttons and rollovers, and you can select and add additional styles in there. Let's see. Oh, look, it's applying the style to my symbol set because my symbol set was selected. But I could take off the style with my styler by holding Option and clicking, and it should take it back to normal eventually. Maybe it's not going to do that. Let me see. Undo. Or let's see, if I click on the default style, it'll take it back to the normal default, which is white fill and black stroke, but I'll just click none. There, now we're back to normal again. Let me just deselect this when I'm adding styles, so I can click to add additional styles, and then they go into my graphic styles main panel, and then I can close the library up, and then I can select my symbol group here, but it's kind of hard to select it on my artwork, so I need to go back into my layers, my clip group, and target my symbol set, and then I can take my symbol styler tool and I can select, maybe I'll just choose dusk, or no, I think I'll try this platinum, and I'll click to add a style on top, or Option click to reverse that to take it back down, or choose a different one like this one, click and add. And you can make your own styles too. Maybe I want to add some dusk to this. Oops, I'm holding Option, so I'm just clicking and adding a layer of style. So styles can be created. You can create your own style, or you can use these styles that are created for you. If I just draw out a shape here, all the appearance decisions that I make can be stored as a style. So for example, if I put a gradient on this, whatever fill color I choose, if I put an effect, maybe I'll add a gradient to this. So I'll go to bring up my gradient panel, which is already up. Where is it? Gradient. Oh, there it is. Just Window, Gradient. Okay. Oh, then I want to choose maybe like a linear gradient, and I want to give this, put a color in there. So I might go to my swatches. Where's my swatches? Here's my swatches. And drag in some colors in my gradient, throw out some colors that I don't want. And so now I have a gradient on there. Then maybe I want to put an effect. So I can go to Effect, and maybe I want to try under Stylize like an inner glow effect. So it's glowing on the edges, or I could change that to glowing in the center. And I could adjust the blending mode, how it's blending. Green is fine, and I can adjust the opacity down maybe, so you see the gradient more, and adjust the blur up a little bit maybe, and then I can say okay there. Maybe I want to put a drop shadow on this, so I go Effect, stylize drop shadow and make adjustments on my drop shadow. Choose a color. Say okay. Maybe I want to add a stroke to this. So I click on stroke, choose a color for my stroke, yellow, and I make some alterations on my stroke. Like maybe I want to pull out my stroke panel and make a dashed line of some sort and change the gap and do different lengths. And then, or maybe I want to do for the stroke, maybe I want to have like round it a little bit or something. So now all of those are appearances. So you see everything in your appearance panel listed. Whatever you set up, you're going to see listed. You can also add additional fills and layer them and play with different opacities and put different effects on them. And you can add multiple strokes from your appearance panel. But I'm not going to do that for now. So then if you want to save this set of appearances, you can do that in Graphic Styles panel. So if I want to save this, I select my object that I made all these, put all these appearances on, the inner glow, the drop shadow, the stroke option, the fill, and then I just, from my Graphic Styles panel, I click the little plus, and I've just added that there. And now I've got my own little button. If I can double click on it and give it a name. I'll call it sparkly style. I don't know. Sparkly style. Whatever. And I'll say okay. And then now I have my own little custom style there, and I can apply the style to my symbol group. I can make another shape at any time and make an ellipse here. And let's say I didn't have if I had like just default or whatever, and then I want to go back to my sparkly style, I can select the ellipse and then click to apply it, and I have the same style. Or I could use a different style like dusk. And dusk is a whole bunch of fills layered on top of each other. That's done by adding fills, and then you can select individual fills and apply effects to those specific fills by selecting them. That's how whoever created this achieved that look. And then I can go and target from my clip group, I can target my symbol set, and I can use my symbol styler tool, choose my very own custom style, and click and add it on there. So now I've just added my own custom style there to the symbol set. So lots of fun stuff that you can do in finalizing this project. Remember to include text and have fun with it. Any questions? You're welcome. Okay, so that's a wrap for tonight.